And my current client is a gentleman named Scott Cripane. Okay, and let's just scroll down here. He also is a songwriter. And as a matter of fact, he is one of the co-writers of that Paw Patrol theme, among other notable accomplishments. And Mr. Scott has been nominated and won Emmy Awards. So what I want to do is tell you a little bit about Scott's situation. And first, Scott, can you, I think I may have to unmute you, but Scott, can you say hello?
Unmute. Yeah, I'm here.
Wonderful.
I'll even throw on the video. I don't know if anybody else has video on, but I'm throwing it on just because I look a little different than the sunglasses guy on the website.
Yeah, you lost the beard. No, you lost the facial hair, right?
Oh, it's still, I only shave like once a week, so it's just less.
Well, yeah, whatever works. So I'm gonna tell them a little bit of the background story about you and your situation, and then I'm gonna ask you to say a few words about what your experience has been and what you have gone through and our work together to date. So folks, Scott contacted me, and of course, Scott, this is again all word of mouth. One client and another client and another client, and some really great folks that I've just had the great fortune of being able to help and serve here. And Scott has a daughter who has had a behavioral health type diagnosis. And when I say that, it's not to be, that shouldn't be stigmatic or anything like that. It's just, it's a little different than something as straightforward as somebody with a laceration or a broken bone, stitch it, cast it, so sometimes some of the approval processes, the utilization review, those types of things are a little different. And so, Scott's family ended up in the same situation, facing if you thought that bill that we just looked at was significant, this is several times that. Am I right, Scott?
I believe so.
Yeah. So, the example that I showed you a few minutes ago, we got that done in 2 days. Unfortunately, Scott, it hasn't been quite that fast with this one, right? But we're working hard on it. We're working hard on it. And one of the things that Scott and I have had the discussion about several times, many times, is I've had the luxury of working with some clients who have the means, and Scott has said, I could pay this bill, but why would I if I don't have to, or I shouldn't have to. And so I really want you to think about, when you are able to use your experience, your knowledge, and your skills for somebody who is, very middle class or maybe even lower middle class, the situation is not any different. It's not less painful, and it's probably more meaningful to those people who, Scott and I were talking about this morning. For some people, this could be financial baggage for the rest of their life, or it could financially ruin them, it really is very, very meaningful and important work that you can do, taking your knowledge, your experience, your skills, and using it in a really meaningful way to help people. So I'd like to just turn it over to Scott and ask Scott to talk a little bit about his experience thus far, because this is still an open file. We're not done with this one yet, but Scott does know another one of my clients who we just recently got their file closed. But Scott, take it away.
Well, thank you for having me. It's this, again, the healthcare system and insurance system, if you will, can be frustrating for somebody like me. It's like I consider myself somewhat intelligent. I read contracts, and so I understand some legalese, but I still can get a statement from an insurance company or medical bill and go, I'm just going to, I'm going to trust that this is correct, which I'm learning now may not be the smartest thing to do, but it feels overwhelming. So the whole process is overwhelming. And in our case, our daughter is going through a difficult season in life, and she's in an inpatient facility, gets approved for that via insurance. And a couple weeks in, insurance says, hey, she's doing too well. We're gonna have to boot her out of this. So I understand they have their reasons, but we know enough about our daughter's story to know that inpatient for that season was the right thing for her. And turns out it really was. It greatly benefited her, and she's doing much better in this season too. So, but again, we were fortunate to have means enough to pay the bill for her to be able to stay where we believe she was supposed to be staying. But we're still frustrated by this whole thing of like, but you said you were going to approve it. And, again, I don't know the ins and outs or the whys, but I can tell you just from a dad standpoint, for my daughter who's in a vulnerable spot already because she's chosen to say, hey, I need to be in this place and do some work. And so she's in a vulnerable spot. And then to hear from insurance, she's the one that gets the call first, like, hey, you've got to be out of here. It's incredibly stressful for her when she's already in a vulnerable and stressed place. So even the way that it happened is a difficult thing. So there's a frustration about it. There's a vulnerability piece to all of it. As I mentioned before, there's the complexity of it and just the lack of understanding for a family like ours who's not in the medical field. I'm going to look at a bill and take someone at their word oftentimes. So, so to be introduced to someone like Doug, to a patient advocate, we were incredibly grateful. I mean, I think of if my friend and collaborator hadn't gone through what they'd gone through, I don't know that I would know that advocates exist. But because of their story, we were like, wait, we might have some help, because all I would know is to appeal and then appeal again. And the times that I've done that over smaller issues in the past, it's never been in our favor, and it takes a lot of energy and a lot of time. And so in this case, we're like, we're gonna make the outright payment to keep our daughter, or to have her be able to stay, because she wanted to stay in this facility, and then try to fight it from the backside. And so when I think of, I'm so grateful that we met someone like Doug, and I know we're still in process, but I also go, irregardless of how our situation turns out, I still think he's a rock star, because of the work that he's done for friends of mine. And I know that every case is different, so I can't, look in a crystal ball and say, hey, ours is going to work out just the way we want it to. But for me to even have to feel heard is, I think, such a huge thing. To go, when I chat with Doug and chat about the problem, my wife and I feel heard in this process. We feel like we're seen and heard as people rather than just a chart in the case of my daughter, or a case number, or dollars maybe in the case of the way the insurance company is viewing it. So we feel like people. We feel like he hears us, feels our frustration, and we have somebody on our side who understands the healthcare system in ways that we simply don't. Without an advocate, we're at a loss for what to do. In this place, I have some hope that maybe we'll get, a decision in our favor. But, again, without an advocate, I don't even know all the options that are available. So it feels like this uphill battle, without a very much chance at a positive income without an advocate. So again, we're just in a place that's incredibly grateful.